And welcome back to Kerbal Space Program Season 4. When last we saw our hero Jeb, he had returned to Kerbin orbit in this very tiny ship after doing a circumnavigation around the moon. And having a look at the new terrain there, it looks really good. And now, it's time to see about a landing. And just for giggles, and for practice, I want to see about landing as close to the Kerbal Space Center as possible. And I'd also like to do so in daylight, so let's warp time ahead here until the Kerbal Space Center is in daylight. Alright, about 2.5 orbits later, the continent where Kerbal Space Center is right here is just nicely coming into sunrise. And so we can now see about planning a re-entry. I'm going to drop a maneuver node about there, at least to start with. And apply some retrograde thrust. And let's see. Alright, that's kind of a guess, but I'd say that's probably going to put us down fairly close to the Space Center. If I remember right, you need to aim the initial trajectory about midway through this ocean. And so we will schedule this burn on the alarm clock and warp ahead to it. Alright, here's our burn time coming up, and I want to, okay. We need to adjust this burn to account for planetary rotation. I'm just going to delay it a little bit. I think that will be the best way to go. And that looks good. It should account for planetary rotation between now and touchdown, and atmospheric drag and so on. So, let's switch out here. Go ahead and close this. 2 minutes and 30 seconds away from our burn. Time to get lined up. Alright, there we go. This shouldn't take more than about a 10-second burn. Down here. Burn it. Camera angle changes. We overburn just a little bit. Shouldn't be too big of a problem. Alright. Now let's warp ahead, and that line's going to shrink as we get lower down in the atmosphere. Start getting some drag. Okay, now we're at 70,000 because time warp just shut out. Yeah. Coming down here. Okay. And let's speed this up a bit. Keep swapping out to the map view here. I want to track my progress and see how good my aim has been. Coming over the western edge of the continent. Okay, we get about to this mountain range, and I think it's going to be time to do a braking burn. Kill the time acceleration. Or maybe not. Because that line is shrinking pretty quickly. Coming over the mountains. Epic looking mountains, I have to say. Decelerating quickly. And actually we're going to come up a little bit short of the Space Center from the looks of this. Okay, we're looking good, so we'll go ahead and jettison the lower stage. Warp time ahead some here. Get down to close to terminal velocity and then deploy the chutes. There we go. Parachute deployed. Good descent, coming down 25.2 kilometers from the Space Center. Or I would imagine, no, that's 25 kilometers from the lower. No, that'd be from the space. Yeah, that's from the launch pad. Our debris at the launch pad. There we go. Okay. Warp ahead to touchdown. And here we go. One safe landing. Okay, and from here, back to the Space Center. Alright, we're back here in the vehicle assembly building. Now, I did record as I went to the tracking station, or at least I thought I was recording as I went to the tracking station and recovered the flight so that we have our pilot back. And presumably recovered whatever useful parts there are still of the vehicle. But apparently that recording was lost because I had things turned around. Because I've noticed a problem in that when recording with Fraps, during scene changes, like from the flight scene to the Space Center or from the Space Center to any of the buildings or the launch pad, it is possible and sometimes happens that apparently some conflict between KSP and Fraps will cause a crash. So, what I'm going to be doing is trying to remember to stop recording just before changing scenes and picking up the recording afterwards. Alright, let's see. I seem to recall there was an issue with control authority as this thing got higher up in the atmosphere and the fins no longer had enough authority to do anything. Okay. Now this used to be the ASAS module. Now it's just basically a big reaction wheel module with lots of pitch torque and so on. So let's go ahead and include this on the lower stage. And I think doing that, we can go ahead and remove the fins. Alright, now, let's see. Okay, there's our current upper stage engine. Let's go ahead, let's see, I believe this is in utility. throw some landing legs on this thing. Okay, and I realize that 4 of them, these big, well, wait a minute. Let's try the smaller ones. I know that way back in 14, these smaller ones used to have a tendency to explode very easily. We'll give them a try, because perhaps that's been changed. Alright, so this is our landing stage, our descent stage. Let's go ahead and pull all of the stuff down here. Grab another decoupler. And let's see. Okay, I think FLT 200, there you go. That should be good for ascent and return. Mostly for return. Well, of course, it would be working a whole lot better, a lot more useful if there was an engine on it. And we'll just stick with the 909. Okay, that's not going to do. Alright, so we'll drag this one up here, drag that down here. No, that's not quite right. There we go. That one up here. This one up here. So we've got this decoupler here, followed by that engine, followed by this decoupler, and then this engine, and then finally this one, and lastly the parachute. Go ahead and combine that. Okay. And let's call this Lander 1. An incredibly creative name, I know. And before we go any farther, let's put some lights on this thing. First of all off, I think it would be very, very handy to have downward facing lights on the landing stage. And let's see. I think a ladder would be a good idea. Just one. Or maybe, yeah. Put it down about there. Well, high enough that it's above the engine fairing. No, we'll just go ahead and put that all the way back up here, and then put this short ladder. No, another tall one. There. That should be good for getting out of the lander and back in. And yes, I realized that okay, let's get this back down to 1. We don't need 2 of those. Alright, and while we're here, just a few white nav lights so that we can see this thing at night. Put an action group on here for the nav lights, action group 5. And let's see. Oh yes, that's right. There was the issue of power. Put, say, 2 batteries and a couple of these 1x6 solar panels. So now there will be enough power for everything to run, and there won't be any concern about running out of power. Alright, now let's check our crew assignment. It's defaulting to Jebediah crew, Jebediah crew, what the heck am I saying? Anyway, okay, it looks like Jeb is going to the moon. That'll work. And now we adjourn to the launch pad. Okay, here we are, and as I was transitioning to the launch pad, I did realize that I had forgotten to assign an action group for the solar panels, so I went back in and set that up. Alright, let's see if this thing performs a little bit better than its predecessor, and if it does, it's going to the moon. Okay, throttle up, ASAS on, and let's go. I'm also hoping that I've got the volume settings set a lot better than in the first episode. Speaking of which, the first episode was kind of a one-time thing. I don't intend to make hour-long episodes very often, but I figured for the beginning of the season it was worth doing. Okay, we seem to have plenty of control authority. The SAS seems to be holding. Drifting a little bit here, rotating a bunch, but seems we're okay. We're pitched way early. Okay, it's looking like perhaps I should have left the fins on for that low atmospheric flight bit. No matter, we seem to be doing okay in spite of slight difficulties. Let's begin pitching over for real, preferably without spinning in the process. Okay, this is becoming very difficult to control. And it's pitching in the wrong direction every time. It's very difficult to compensate for spin when this is happening, when you're trying to control your pitch. Okay, this is not going to do. We're going to abort this flight and recover our astronaut and make some design changes. Alright, almost down to the ground here. Parachutes deployed just in time. How far are we over the terrain? Almost there. I don't like being in time warp at actual touchdown. Physics engine can apparently get a little funky sometimes when you do that. At least it's done that to me a few times in the past. So just before touchdown, we go back to normal time. And we have another good landing. Okay. I will go to the tracking station, recover the ship and our astronaut, and meet you back in the vehicle assembly building. Okay, here we are. And all I think I'm going to do here is put back the winglets that I had taken off. So that we have some better control authority for pitch and roll and so on during the early ascent. And maybe have a better time flying this thing. Okay, save. How's our crew assignment? We still have Jebediah for the pilot. That works. Alright. Time to head to the launch pad. Okay, here we are. We're on the launch pad. We have our fins back. ASAS on. Throttle up. Let's open up our resources because I like to keep track of that. Vessel and orbital information. Bring our camera angle back to where I'm used to having it. And let's go. Fins should give us enough, these winglets ought to give us enough control authority to, I'm hoping, keep from pitching over unwanted and unwanted rolling while in the lower atmosphere. That combined with the reaction wheel thing here should give us a much better early flight. And yes, this ship has a monstrous total delta V. It could conceivably go quite a few places. And as things progress, we may try to find out if that's true. Okay, no rolling. Rock steady. Halfway through the first stage, it looks like. Passing through 10 kilometers, let's begin to pitch. A little bit of roll there. Trying to compensate for that roll. So far I'm having a reasonable time of it. Apoapsis is already to 69. Let's get pitched over farther. Cut the engine and pitch. This roll is really frigging annoying. Concentrate on horizontal velocity. Stage that away and get the much easier to control upper stage. Much better flight. Doing good. Alright, this flight's destination is a moon landing. I don't know if I'll get to it in this episode. What I'm going to do is record the whole thing, and then I'll be breaking this into 30-minute episodes. That will be my practice from here out. except for special occasions when a longer episode is warranted. Okay, periapsis is coming up. The camera angle is changing, switching to free camera to change it back. We've lost that stage. Okay, throttle off and stage. We have a 132 by 74 orbit. It's kind of on the high side. I had actually hoped to use some of that stage for the trans-moon injection burn, but we've still got 3,400 meters per second in delta V available, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. All right, first up, let's set the moon as a target. 0.8 degrees out of plane. That's not very much. Let's fix it anyway. Oh, 0.2. There we go, 0.0. Okay, that's going to be a south burn, so let's pitch to roll over to 180. Burn is in 13 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and schedule that. And let's deploy the solar panel before I forget. Now we don't have any concerns about power. And let's time warp ahead. Alright, it's time for our burn, and oh, let's turn on the navigation lights. So much nicer being able to see the ship at night. Okay, I'm going to assume that this burn is going to be more like 5 or 10 seconds instead of the 10-minute estimation it currently has, because this stage hasn't been used yet. Time warp just a little more. Good, right there. Delete the maneuver node. Delete the alarm. And we've got good alignment. Okay. Now, as for when to do the burn, I'm going to guess, say right about here. Add a maneuver. It'll be the next time around on the orbit. See, this is going to cost about 800 or 900 meters a second to get out to the moon. Okay. 385, 152, 95. That looks like that's a good plate to be at. And if by any chance we miss the moon, we will escape and go into solar orbit. So we don't want to do that. All right. First up, schedule the burn. 1 minute and 40 seconds burn time. Matter of fact, that means we should have a 2-minute warning. Get lined up on our node. All right, and let's do the time warp again. Okay. I noticed that the ASAS doesn't seem to hold alignment with the maneuver node very well while time warping. I'm hoping that's just a bug that gets fixed soon. Alright, 1 minute 40 seconds. So we need to burn at T-minus 50. Right. Nice easy burn. And I'll accelerate the video for this. All right, we're just about there. Throttling back because we are out of alignment with our maneuver node. Finish the last of this. I'm thinking the ship may need to be modified to have one more stage for the injection burn to the moon. But we're going to give it a try. If need be, we can always abort the landing and try again on the next time. Okay, we have 233 kilometer moon periapsis. Let's get an alarm for sphere of influence change. Close that keyframe thing until we need it. Alright, and we time warp. Let's see. Let's get a nice sort of theatrical view for departing Kerbal. Okay, here we are on the edge of the moon's orbit almost.